Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm continuing my Q&A series with a question that I hear a lot. Someone recently asked, I'm 54. Am I too old to effectively feminize a quite deep male voice? And if you've ever had this thought, let me assure you that the short answer is no. Your voice is adaptable at any age, and by the way, 54 is quite young. I have worked with clients in their 60s, 70s, and even in their 80s. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how your brain and your voice can change even later in life. I'm going to talk about how deep voices can be feminized, often more than you might think. And finally, I'm going to talk about how to build habits that actually stick and why starting later in life might actually be a benefit to you. So if you're feeling like it's too late for you to get started on your vocal feminization journey, stick around because I think you'll be encouraged by the end of this video. One of the biggest misconceptions about learning things later in life is that you're just generally going to get worse at everything as you get older. So obviously our bodies change, our brains change, but there's this thing called neuroplasticity, and I am not an expert in this subject, but in general, the concept here is that we can continue to train our brain to adapt to what we're doing and how we're doing it. Basically, we can continue to get our brains to form new connections all throughout our lives. Research has shown that even in older adults, the brain is capable of learning and adapting with practice. In this article on neuroplasticity from Harvard Health Publishing, Dr. Andrew E. Budson says, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to learn, remember, and change when it is appropriate for the circumstances. The article also says that cognitive fitness, the ability to think, learn, and remember effectively, depends on a healthy and adaptable brain. By actively engaging in behaviors that support neuroplasticity, you can strengthen cognitive function and potentially reduce the risk of age-related decline. So it actually might be more important than you think to continue to learn new things as you get older. In the same article, they list different ways that you can create neuroplasticity, and challenging your brain is on that list. The article suggests trying something new, which could be voice training, challenging yourself, which could be voice training, even word games and strategy games. These are all things that you can actually use as tools during your voice training. So you could kind of be doing two things at one time. It also suggests music as an activity. And I hate to break it to you, but singing is a great way to learn and get to know your voice. And music is a beautiful thing. I've seen things even with my own grandparents where they might forget certain things, but they remember a song. The melody of the song or the lyrics of a song can be so powerful and really stick in your brain. So there's something with music there that's really, really important for cognitive function. When you're first starting out, it's really important to get clear on what you want to work on. Okay, so you're thinking, okay, I really want to work on voice training. I really want this specific outcome. I really want a feminine perceived voice. And then it's really important to figure out what the input is that you need to get to that outcome. So once you decide, okay, I want this outcome, then you kind of have to throw that outcome out the window. You don't want to necessarily be thinking, I'm not at my outcome. I'm not at my goal. I'm not there. I've been practicing every day, but I'm not there yet. It's been 2 weeks. Really focusing on what the input is to get to that goal can be a really beneficial way to stay on track and to stay motivated so that you're not thinking, I'm not there yet. If you're thinking, okay, I'm doing what I need to do. So I trust this process. I know that by practicing each day, I'm going to get where I'm going. So that's another piece of the puzzle. And when you're an older person, you know that Rome wasn't built in a day. You know that things take time. So I think that having that life experience can be really helpful with something that is a longer term goal. So here are some tips to build a habit around voice training, to build that input habit. The first one is called the 2-minute rule. And this one I learned about in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And this is essentially saying whatever it is that I want to do, if it's voice training, I'm going to commit to doing this for 2 minutes each day. so that you get in the habit of sitting down and doing the thing every day. Once you have developed a routine that I'm going to do this every day, even though it's not, I'm going to do it for an hour a day, you'll progressively increase the amount of time that you're doing that thing. So once you're doing something, you're in it, you're doing it. I think that a lot of procrastination and avoidance comes from that thing of like, oh, I've got to practice, but it's going to be so long and I don't want to deal with it and I just want to do this other stuff. If you just say 2 minutes and that's it, that can really help to get you started. Another one I think I learned from Gretchen Rubin is just called Don't Break the Chain. So the idea here is that you just continue to do the thing every day. I think the 2-minute rule goes hand in hand with this. So you might not have 20 minutes to practice, but you probably have 2 minutes to practice. So making sure that you continue to not break the chain. Or some people say like, don't take 2 days off or something like that. You can figure out your own rule with it. But I think using a habit tracker, like you can just write down, all the days of the week, and what you want to do every week. Did I do 2 minutes? Yes. And don't break the chain. Don't miss a day. And finally, habit stacking. I think this one too I got from Atomic Habits, but this one is essentially where you tack on something you want to do with something you already do. So if you make your coffee in the morning the same way, every time you put the coffee on, you're waiting for your coffee, you do your 2-minute practice. That's a way to make sure that you tack something on, so it's not like this completely new thing. It's like, well, when I do this, I do this. Or after I do this, I do this right after. So I think that can be really helpful too. The key here is consistency rather than intensity or the amount of time that you're doing something. Consistency is what gets you to your goals. So now I want to address the other piece of this question, this idea of having a deep voice and whether or not you're going to be able to achieve your goals with coming from a deeper voice. First of all, it is possible to change the pitch of your voice. I'm sure you would surprise yourself with how much you were able to move your voice up or down if you just explored it. I think our pitch range is oftentimes just a habit, so what we typically do. But as singers, I'm a singer. I'm always exploring my high range, my low range. And so our voices are capable of so much more than just the habitual space where we speak typically. Secondly, pitch is only one component of what makes a voice sound feminine. Many cis women have much lower voices than you think. I've been doing some videos where I analyze different celebrities' voices, and I would encourage you to go check those out. I'll link some of those, so that you can see that a lot of feminine perceived voices are not super high. There's also the fact that cis women's voices tend to lower with age due to hormonal changes. So, depending on your age range, there might be a little bit less of a gap between where you habitually speak pitch-wise and where the cis women in your same age range speak. So what are the other important factors when it comes to feminine perceived voices? One is resonance. Resonance is arguably the most important element of a feminine perceived voice. The magic of resonance is that it can take a single pitch and make it sound brighter or darker depending on the size of your vocal tract. So if I say hi, how are you? Versus hi, how are you? That's the same pitch, but with a very different resonant space. So changing that, obviously I'm really exaggerating those, but making that change can make your voice sound much more feminine. Intonation is another big factor. So moving your pitch up and down can be a feminine perceived quality. So if you're used to speaking very monotone, not a lot of movement here, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, versus Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So adding a little bit more movement in your pitch can be helpful. And there are other factors like articulation and vocal weight that can all, when you put all these things together, can definitely make your voice sound more feminine. So if you're thinking about working on pitch, Remember that your vocal cords are a muscle inside of your body. So just like you wouldn't go to the gym and expect to be able to lift 100 pounds or run 100 miles right away, you have to build up your endurance and your strength in order to get the voice you're looking for. So, even with if we use the same working out analogy, if you're doing a squat or something and you're not quite aware of your body or how your body's moving, that's gonna mean that you're not doing it in the most effective way. So becoming aware of your body, strengthening your body, and then expanding your range is kind of the progression with pitch work. So if that's something that you're interested in working on, I do have a video on pitch that I will link for you so you can check that out. Remember that it's not about forcing anything. It's not about going to the max with anything. It's about gently changing and strengthening your voice little by little. Another thing to consider is that just like everything in our bodies, our voice changes as we age. I mentioned that cis women's voices oftentimes get lower with age. So in general, with your voice, if you're older, then you've been using your voice for longer. So that means there's a little bit more wear and tear on the voice. Another factor is cartilage ossification. So as we get older, the cartilage in the larynx, which is the structure that houses our vocal cords, ossifies or hardens, which just makes things a little less flexible and a little bit more challenging to navigate. But as we said, the vocal cords are muscles. So the good news is that they respond to gentle training. So gently warming your voice up is going to be really important for your voice as you age. The best kinds of warm-ups to do are SOVT exercises, semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, and I will link my video for vocal warm-up exercises for you to check out. There's also some stretches which are really important, stretching your neck and generally loosening up this area. Hydration is another very important factor for your voice. It's going to make your voice work more easily, much like you focus on hydration when you're just getting healthy overall. As we talked about with the habits, short, frequent practice sessions are going to be more effective physically as well as mentally in the long term. So you don't want to, first of all, burn out mentally and say like, ugh, I'm sick of practicing so long. And you don't want to burn out physically and not give yourself enough rest or be aware of your voice enough to know that's a bit too much. If you feel overwhelmed by voice training, you can think of ways to make it fun and low stakes. You can talk to your pets like I do all day long. Your cat is not going to judge you if you're making a weird sound. Actually, your cat might be the one to judge you and leave the room in a huff, like, oh, what are you doing? And leave the room. So actually, I take it back. Maybe a dog might be more understanding. You can read aloud. If you're reading a news article or reading a book, spend a little bit of the time reading aloud, practicing your voice. And you can even do some voice journaling. So this is a really great thing to practice conversationally or speaking off the cuff, to use your phone or voice recorder as a journal. So you can talk about what you did that day, or, if you're trying to keep track of certain habits, you can talk about that, or something that's bothering you. It's another great way to practice your voice. Most importantly, be patient with yourself. Voice work takes time, and it's important to remember to think about that input rather than why am I not at the goal yet. It's about gentle and steady progress. So I think in our society, there's, a little bit of, especially with Instagram and TikTok and everybody having a perfect aesthetic life, and they're 23, they live in an expensive high rise in New York City. You're like, what? You're watching their matcha routine. That's what I'm watching. So we promote this in our society of you're supposed to be young and have it completely figured out. But most people do not have anything figured out in their 20s, let alone in your 30s or 40s. So for some people, when it comes to voice training or transitioning, you might not have been in a situation where you felt comfortable transitioning or were ready or felt safe to do so. So remember, if that idea of I should have started sooner, or why didn't I get started with my voice training, or whatever, it's a complicated thing, obviously, and it's different for everybody, but remember that basically no one has it all figured out. There's no one. So the best time to start being you and doing what makes you feel good is when you're ready. So if now is your time, embrace it. Voice training is an investment in yourself, and you really deserve to feel good in your voice. So let's go back to our original question. I'm 54. Am I too old to effectively feminize a deep voice? Absolutely not. Your brain is adaptable, your voice is adaptable, and your experience is an advantage. You can absolutely achieve a voice that feels like you at any age. I'd love to hear from you if you're working on your voice later in life. I want to hear how it's going, any struggles that you're having, or things that you feel have been benefits to you. And if you'd like more guidance, I have a self-study e-course called the True Voice Vocal Feminization e-course that is linked below. And I also offer one-on-one private lessons. So if that's something you're interested in, take a look at the link below as well. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, maybe share it with somebody who you think might benefit from hearing this. So be kind to yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.